The state of North Carolina covers 53,000 square miles. It is the habitat of the feared Carolina Panthers. Get dialed in, Panthers fans, for an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews, locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome to Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea. I'm Dennis Cox. Chris.
Or, as we're more affectionately known
yes,
as,
of course,
the Fake Matt Rule and Fake Matt Rule's friend.
Yes. We're here with Panthers Playbook, part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network. We're here at 99.9 The Fan Studios. Now, real quick, Chris, before we get into today's topics, I know we have some special interviews. You have one-on-ones with Shy Tuttle, as well as Ikem Ekwonu. But before we get into that, make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, all right? We have podcasts, Chris, coming out every Thursday during the season, plus one after every game, including preseason games as well. So you're going to get this at least twice a week.
Absolutely, and we're excited to do it. A lot of people, of course, watch our content from 99.9 The Fan on YouTube, so we want to bring you more Panthers content as we're telling you what we're seeing from here. I'll be at every home game, and of course, we'll be following the games on the road as well.
So make sure you smash that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the likes. Also, leave comments. Chris and I will interact with you in the comments section.
Maybe.
Oh, no, I will. I definitely 100% will.
I try to stay away from the toxicity.
Well, I mean, that's different. Staying away from toxicity is different. But no, like in genuine interaction with fans, that's actually what we want to do and we will have for you here on Panthers Playbook. Now, Chris, two things here about the preseason. They put the pads on for the first time this week. Two things about this preseason and really about the season as a whole for the Carolina Panthers. Two things. One, the development of Bryce Young, and two, finding an identity. Let's go to the first thing. To me, if the Carolina Panthers, the success of this season really just hinges on the development of Bryce Young. If Bryce Young develops, to me, it doesn't matter if they make the playoffs. It's all about developing that number one overall pick.
Well, let's talk about so far what I've seen and
because you've been at camp.
I've been at camp. I was at the first two practices at camp last week. And I did go to rookie mini camp earlier in the summer. So let's break it down into from what I saw from Bryce Young versus what the Panthers are saying about Bryce Young.
Sure.
And when you hear what the Panthers are saying, you hear what people are saying about how he's advanced. They love his processing. They love the fact that they are teaching him things that you normally teach a second or third year quarterback. They are beyond the rookie teaching portion of his time, even though he hasn't played a game yet, which is very interesting. So I went to practice, and you're watching these live situations. Of course, no hitting, nothing's really on the line.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young is threading the needle. He's literally putting the ball on receivers where only they can catch it. Now, of course, there's been an interception here or there.
Yeah.
That happens a lot of times with timing routes and miscommunication.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it as well. But just the things that I've seen from him so far, he is legit that guy. The problem, and I don't know if this will be a problem, it may not even be a problem, it's when there's an actual NFL team that is ready to hit you. Is he going to remain healthy if he does get touched? And then secondly, what kind of decisions will he make in those situations?
Yeah.
Other than that, Bryce Young is who he was advertised to be. And I was able to see that with my own eyes, especially with the way this Panthers offense has been designed so far that we've seen in this preseason.
Now, I know this week with the now going 11-on-11 with pads on, there's full contact. There's an interception that he threw earlier in the week where there was the pocket collapsed on him. He kind of just floated one up there in the middle, and Frankie Louvu got an interception. Again, I'm okay, 100% okay with making these mistakes during training camp. I don't if he's at his peak already, that's not a good thing. But that's the thing. Like, as good as he is right now is what you're talking about. You want him to get exponentially better. It's also good and important for him now at this stage in training camp, now with pads on, facing actual pressure. Now he's not getting hit in practice, but actually facing pressure. It's like you actually can learn your limits right now.
Yeah.
Not only learn the limits of yourself, you learn the limits of your receivers as well. You learn what your offensive line can do, and you make those mistakes. That's how you learn and grow. So people's like, well, he threw another interception. Okay. If he throws an interception early in practice and then learns from that as practice goes on and more reps take place, that's growth. That's a good thing. I know some people freak out about interceptions in practice. Me, I don't.
Andy Dalton is going into his 13th year, and he's been throwing interceptions.
See, there you go.
It
Case in
happens.
point.
It happens. And Bryce Young is legit the best quarterback on this team.
Oh, yeah.
But the important part from that is not just the interceptions, it's how you bounce back from it.
Yes, exactly.
We had Sam Darnold the last 2 seasons, and Sam Darnold is famous for saying that he's seen ghosts out there on the field, right? So Sam Darnold, you see him, he'd have the happy feet. He'd get basically flustered in the pocket, wouldn't make great decisions whenever he was rushed off of his spot. And what we've seen from Bryce Young is the exact opposite. He's unflappable. That is the word that Frank Reich used it for him. Basically, Bryce Young, no matter if he's throwing a 60-yard touchdown or if he threw an interception, he's moving on after the next play. And that is one of those cliches we hear, some coach speak that we hear.
Oh, yeah.
But that's important for that position, and he's already displaying it right now just in practice.
It's also important for him, I think, right now, is that he knows he's number one.
Oh, yeah.
Then there's just no faux battle. Like, that's the moment that they wrote his name on the card at the NFL draft, he was QB1.
Yes.
Whether they said it or not, he was. And I think that's also a big thing, is that he's getting all the first-team reps. Andy Dalton doesn't need reps. He's, like you said, he's a 13-year guy. He doesn't need them.
Yeah.
He doesn't need them. Every rep with the first team, exception of maybe like 2% of them, should go to Bryce Young. And that's important. Hey, you know what? Bryce is our dude. We know that going forward. It's all about him right now. It's all about developing him. And I think that's important. None of this split reps or any of that kind of stuff like we saw last year with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. It's like, no, just go ahead and name Baker the starter. You already know what you have in Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
We already know what you got in Andy Dalton. He doesn't need the reps. You can just plug him in if something happens if needed. Which hopefully, if he doesn't see the field this season, that's a good thing. That's probably a good thing. That's a very good thing. Unless it's like, hey,
a blowout.
Unless we're up
garbage time.
Unless the Panthers are up 21 and there's 2 minutes left, then you put Andy Dalton in to take knees or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But it's important that Bryce knows that he's the number one guy.
But outside of that, I would also say that the situation that Bryce has come into should give him all the confidence in the world. This coaching staff, the way owner David Tepper has, put his all into building a better staff than last time. He learned his lesson from the Matt Rule thing. We'll talk about that a little bit. But he learned his lesson. He learned his lesson from the Matt Rule thing. And the way he put the staff together, and then also just what Scott Fitterer has done in the offseason. You're not so high on a lot of these moves, but getting Miles Sanders, getting Hayden Hurst, getting Adam Thielen, getting DJ Chark to add to the pieces that they already had coming back, I think was very much so important. Also going out and drafting Jonathan Mingo. It's giving the signal that, Bryce, we want you to be as comfortable as possible. This line, they kept the offensive line coach James Campen, so the offensive line is going to have that same chemistry that they were building last year. Bryce is walking into a situation where he should have all the confidence in the world. There's no reason for him to not have the confidence. So when he does step on the field in week 1, he can go out there and play freely and have no worries about anything.
Well, you mentioned that entire offensive line coming back, including second-year starter at left tackle, Ikem Ekwonu.
He's a big guy.
He is a monster.
Oh, my God, he's a big guy.
He's a monster of a man, and he should only get better in year 2. Chris Lea, conversation you have with Ikem Ekwonu coming up next.
All right, guys, and Raleigh, you recognize the face. Ikem Ekwonu, of course, former NC State standout, here starting his second year with the Carolina Panthers. And, of course, the first year went pretty well, and folks are already looking at you as one of the best offensive tackles coming up. Now you have a new challenge. You have a quarterback in Bryce Young that you're sitting back there protecting. Before we get into more on Bryce Young, tell me a little bit more about just the transition to this new coaching staff. You were used to Dave Dorn for your entire time at State. In the pros, you got to get used to a new coaching staff. How's that been for you?
Yeah, I think it's been great. One of the many blessings was being able to retain my offensive line coach and the assistant coach, Coach Campen and Coach Kugler. Just kind of building that continuity in the offensive line unit was big, I feel like, in my development from last year to this year. So that's definitely been a blessing. And I feel like I see a lot of similarities between Coach Reich and Coach Dorn. Obviously guys are, quiet when they need to be, loud when they need to be as well. Leaders, everything like that. So definitely good to, follow that leadership.
Doesn't have to be on the field, but what's something that you've learned about yourself after 1 year being a pro that you maybe didn't learn before, whether it's your performance, whether it's you as a person? What's the way you think you've grown after that 1 year?
Sure, I think I've grown just being more consistent overall, just Also confidence, I feel like, especially from last year to this year, the training camp, it feels a lot better coming in this year. Last year, I was a little bit, starry-eyed a little bit. Wasn't really sure how to practice, wasn't really sure, in my technique. I just feel like I kind of just have a lot of things I can build off of last year, so that kind of helped my confidence a little bit.
So we heard last night was the Rookie Talent Show. Last year, of course, you were part of the Rookie Talent Show. Before we ask you about Bryce, what did you do? How did you perform in the Rookie Talent Show last year?
I think I did great. I went first, so that was obviously a lot of pressure. And, I sang It's So Hard to Say Goodbye. I got a standing ovation, so I feel like I killed it. Bryce killed it too, though. Bryce had the whole room singing along. They usually don't do that for rookies, but they did it for Bryce, so that kind of just shows his performance. So I'll give Bryce an A+.
Do you remember what he sang?
It was a Keisha Cole song. I can't remember what it's called, but he was out there like screaming. he had like
that one? He sang that one? Wow.
I forget what it's called.
Okay.
He killed it. Just like that. So he was out there screaming like, he killed it.
Okay. So you hear that he's a pretty good singer. Better quarterback, better singer. What do you think?
Shoot. It's a toss-up. He's a great quarterback, great singer. I don't know. It's hard to say. But, like I said, he killed that yesterday. And he had to go first. That's a lot of pressure. So great job to Bryce.
People made a lot about his size being 5'10", 195 pounds. But you're going to be the one helping to protect his blind side. What have you seen out of him so far, and how do you think his size will actually help him out and give him an advantage in the NFL this year?
Yeah, I don't think his size is really too much of a factor, to be honest with you. I see him making the same sort of throws he made in college, obviously behind the Alabama line that was, huge. So I don't really see his size being an issue. Anything is it's a plus, like you said. Being more mobile, you see the agility, when he gets up in his space. So I think can only really be a positive for him.
We've seen a lot of different formations, the ball getting out really quickly, a lot of the different weapons, Hayden Hurst, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark. What's going to be fun about this offense? I thought it was fun last year, especially towards the end of the year, running the ball so much. But what's going to be fun and different about the offense for this year?
Yeah, we got some, new pieces this year. Just makes the offense that much more explosive. I'm excited. We really, built the run game up last year. Excited to really see the pass game come up as well. So, a lot of explosive plays, a new playbook, really just scheming guys open. So definitely exciting. Going to be exciting to watch.
Last question from me. Your NC State teammate Chandler Zavala is injured right now, but when you found out that he was going to get drafted and come to the Carolina Panthers and potentially play next to you, how exciting was that for you? And does it kind of like bring back memories of you guys blowing up defensive lines back in college?
Yeah, definitely exciting. A guy that, that even leading up to the draft, they asked me about, I was honest with him. I said, Chandler's a dog in the trenches. He'd be a good piece for us. And definitely fortunate that we were able to, find him there, later in the draft, and definitely excited to see him come ball out over here.
His dad is a chef. Have you ever had his food?
I have. Whew, and it was delicious.
Is he gonna cook? Is he gonna cook for the team here?
We'll see. I'm not gonna put that pressure on him, but hope so. Fingers crossed. But yeah, he cooked for the offensive line my last year at State. He had like some, I don't know how to describe it, some like water contraption where he like cooked the meat in. I don't know how to describe it. Only a chef probably has that, but it was delicious.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to follow up on that and see if he cooks for you guys here. Ikem Ekwonu joining us, Raleigh, North Carolina. Of course, you guys familiar with the face, former NC State offensive lineman here at Panthers training camp.
Yeah, Ikem Ekwonu's a big man. And you know what? His development is also is paramount for Bryce Young as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to him, Brady Christensen, both starting back on that left side of the offensive line together as a tandem once again on the left side of that line, just getting even stronger and even better. It's a good young offensive line as a whole, I would say.
And even just having the depth too, because if Brady Christensen goes out, they can bring in Chandler Zavala.
When he recovers from a pectoral injury.
Yeah, when he comes back. Austin Corbett, he's down right now, so Cade Mays is stepping into
who they
his
drafted
place.
last year.
If any of the tackles go down, you have Cam Irving, who's could be there. He's been a starter before with the Dallas Cowboys, been a starter before for the Carolina Panthers. So that's one of the things that I haven't seen in a while from the Carolina Panthers is not only just having a solid 5 guys on the line, but also the depth. If one of these pieces go down, somebody can step in their place.
And I think this is important when you have the continuity and stability, which is something we haven't seen with the Carolina Panthers in like 4 years, 5 years.
What happened 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Who was the coach 4 years ago?
Ron Rivera was. But that's the thing about something that Frank Reich needs to establish. Yeah. And I think this is what this franchise needs to establish is what is your identity? Because under Matt Rule, there was none. You didn't nobody knew what this team was. Yeah. Now, in the past, there was always that keep pounding mindset, right, that the Carolina Panthers have. And I think Frank Reich is adopting that. When Steve Wilkes came in as the interim coach last year after Rule got kicked out, that keep pounding mindset, that identity actually started to form. We started to see it. It came back.
Oh, my God.
And
it
imagine,
actually works.
And they actually were started to win games. Now, I would like to see how Frank Reich embraces that, but also brings in what these young guys now have with Bryce Young, like how they all adopt it, right? Because we talk about identities with franchises. I mean, we're here in the state of North Carolina. Look at the Carolina Hurricanes. There's an identity in the culture under Rod Brindamore. I mean, you just look across the NFL. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers and their culture and the identity. It's like lunch pail. Doesn't matter who you are, you come to work. That's the thing, is that what is the identity of this Carolina Panthers team moving forward? And I think it's imperative, not just for this season, but long-term, that they really find that.
You ever heard of a criticism sandwich?
No, but give it to me.
Basically, if you're going to criticize somebody, the meat is the criticism. But you also say something nice on the ends, right? So
Okay.
I'm going to say something nice about Matt Rule. He did do a pretty good job at drafting guys.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on that.
And building a decent roster.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that, because you look at Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin,
Solid.
got J.C. Horn.
Solid.
When
Frankie
he plays.
Louvu pick up. And
Ikem Ekwonu.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ikem Ekwonu.
Brady Christensen.
Now I'm ready for the meat.
Okay, give
Pause.
it to me.
Pause on that too. Okay. We've talked to players so far, and it's very clear that the players under Matt Rule who played for him, they weren't clear on what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
We talked about that identity, right? What is going on with the Carolina Panthers? We heard it from Johnny Hekker. We've heard it from C.J. Henderson. We've heard it from Shaq Thompson. Now, these guys didn't explicitly Tommy Tremble. These guys didn't explicitly go out and say the last coaching staff sucked. They didn't say that. But they did say that under this coaching staff, we know what our roles are.
Yeah.
We know clearly and it's defined what we're going to go out there and do. Johnny Hekker is saying it, the punter. The punter didn't have a clear view of what was going on.
Yeah.
And he has one job. To punt the ball and make sure that you give the defense something to work with as possessions being changed. So now that you're hearing players say that and you're learning more, Tommy Tremble saying that he's learning what it's like to actually be a receiver in the NFL. He's going into his third season. He didn't learn that under Matt Rule's regime.
Yeah.
You hear Shaq Thompson, somebody who came in with the Ron Rivera regime, and now he's saying things are a little bit more clear. C.J. Henderson, who basically is a project right now, even though he was a first-round pick for Jacksonville and the Panthers traded for him, he's saying things are more clear. I know where I'm supposed to be at. I feel like I can actually have success. These are things that we're starting to see now, and that is something that makes me happy for Panthers fans and for Frank Reich. Think about that. Under Matt Rule, these players didn't know what was going on, and still they're at least good for 5 wins.
Yeah.
And then when Steve Wilkes came in, of course, that raised up. They got 7 wins last year. So you're telling me with a better quarterback, a better offensive line, better skill position players, and I know we've argued about that before, but I do think this is the deepest wide receiver core that the Panthers have ever had, even though they don't have a legit number one. Somebody could grow into a number one receiver. With all of that, you're telling me some people are out there thinking the Panthers are only going to win 7 games. Now they have a clear view of what's going on.
Yeah.
This could actually be a playoff team this year. I don't want to jump too far.
Sure.
But with this is a lot of the same guys plus the additions of some new guys. This team could be so much better than last year, just simply based off of having a better coaching staff who can put them in position to win.
It's amazing how coaching works, how coaching matters, right? People always talk about
really does.
We really
It really does.
We often talk about in sports about like, oh, we got to have like this star player, this top level quarterback, whatever it might be. Sometimes coaching matters. Coaching can lose you games.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look at the Denver Broncos last season with Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, just that's the thing. Like, look at Matt Rule's
in
first Carolina.
year, all those games that they lost, it was like 8 games they lost by a possession or less, like 6 points or less.
Yeah.
The difference of that was coaching.
Yeah. And back then, Teddy Bridgewater was the starter. Okay, he's a middle of the pack kind of guy, but you still had 2 1,000-yard receivers.
3.
Curtis Samuel had like 890 that season. I went back and looked. He had like 890 yards. Okay. All right, we'll go back. Okay. Yeah, we'll go check the stats. But still, having that identity or forming one And knowing where guys need to be in terms of what your role is and that clear defined role, it goes a long, long way. Now, some guys are going to have a little bit of a different role because now on defense, there's a 3-4 defensive scheme under Ejiro Evero. One of the guys that was brought in to be part of that scheme, Shy Tuttle, on the defensive line. Chris, you had a chance to speak with him.
We're Shy Tuttle here with the Carolina Panthers. Of course, he's from North Carolina, Midway, North Carolina, going to North Davidson High School. So I wanted to ask you a lot of just the obvious question. Were you a Panthers fan growing up? And what is your favorite Panthers memory when you were growing up?
Man, yes, of course I was a Panthers fan, and my favorite Panthers memory had to be when the Panthers beat the Chicago Bears. I forgot what round, but it was like playoffs for sure. Steve Smith might have went deep the first play of the game.
Okay.
Jumped on the goalpost.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. I know which one you're talking about. So now that you're here and you have the opportunity to be with this team, not only to play for the team that you grew up watching, but it's a very exciting time with Frank Reich. You have Bryce Young, the #1 overall pick here. What an exciting time to play for the Carolina Panthers. How excited are you to see what happens during the season?
Well, I'm very excited. First and foremost, my family gets to come see me. I get to see them more often, spend some holidays with them. So I just feel like that's a dope feeling. At the same time, I can't get distracted with that, keep the main thing, which is football, but I'm definitely excited, looking forward to the season.
You're, of course, familiar with the NFC South. You used to play with the Saints, but Brian Burns the other day on the podcast said that he feels like the Panthers are going to win the NFC South. So with your knowledge of the NFC South, I want to know if you agree with Brian Burns. Is the Panthers going to win the NFC South this year?
I mean, I would like to think so, And I don't know if y'all seen or watched last year, but it was up for grabs. And I feel like there hasn't been that much movement within the offseason. So we definitely got a good chance to win it.
When you were playing against the Panthers, what was your impression of the team the last couple of years, and as far as them taking the next step? Where could you see the team going to make sure they took the next step to probably try to make the playoffs? And do you think they've made those moves?
Man, well, I'm going to start and say their defense last year was crazy. They were balling on defense, so me be a part of it, who wouldn't want to be? I just got to go out there and do my job. And I feel like they addressed that with drafting Bryce Young. They were running the ball. I don't know if you paid attention to the last half of the season, but they was running the ball last year, so they get a passing game in there along with their run game. Crazy.
No, I was definitely paying attention. Wanted to ask you also just a little bit more about just on the field and Bryce Young. You, of course, not playing on the same side of the ball, but what have you noticed from him and his development as a passer, and being able to watch him? You're going against him in practice.
I see why he was the #1 pick. He putting it on the receivers. Like timing, his anticipation is crazy. Receiver not even out there breaking, he's already balls out of his hands. So from a rookie quarterback, that's big. You see why he's the #1 quarterback. In
your position, you're going after the quarterback, but people talk about the size being a factor for him, only being 5'10". How do you think his size will help him out, maybe help him out, be an important piece of his game?
To be honest with you, Drew Brees was my quarterback in New Orleans. You see what he did. He's a Hall of Fame player. So whoever says sizes matter, maybe. But they got an offensive line. They get paid to protect him. So if they're doing their job, he should be just fine. Kid's a player. He's a baller. I don't see nothing wrong with it.
And this is the final thing I want to ask you and talk to you about. Apparently the rookie talent show was yesterday.
Yeah.
What did Bryce sing?
What song did he sing? I already forgot. That's great. He did a good job, though.
Can he actually sing, though?
A little bit of practice.
He's a better quarterback.
Yeah, definitely better quarterback. We got some D-linemen coming up today, so
okay.
Yeah, we'll see what we're talking about.
All right, Shy Tuttle here with us from Carolina Panthers, North Carolina native, excited to be a part of the Panthers. What do you say? Playoffs? Not long playoff run this year?
I hope so. I don't want to say I don't believe in the city. I definitely believe in our team, but I ain't trying to. Of course, we expect to make the playoffs.
I'm excited about this defense.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a lot of really good pieces. Now, there's a couple questions about some depth positions and things like that. We can get that into another later podcast as training camp goes along, because you never know what's going to happen with injuries. Some guys actually might get dealt. I know there was actually just a signing earlier this week at linebackers, Deion Jones, which I think is a good depth piece to add.
Very good.
I was like, wait, well, he was still out there? But that's a good addition to the team right at this point in training camp. But nonetheless, I'm excited about this defense. I'm curious to see how Evero uses Jeremy Chin. I think he's the real X factor in the defense.
Yes.
But I'm excited about it, though.
Here's one thing I do like as well, and this isn't about coaching staff. This isn't about prior coaching staffs or anything like that. But the fact that you have Ikem Ekwonu, who we heard from North Carolina, grew up in Charlotte. Shy Tuttle grew up in Davidson County in Midway, North Carolina. Grew up a Panthers fan. Deshaun Williams, I think he's from South Carolina, grew up a Panthers fan. You were disappointed with that. If you guys are watching YouTube, you saw his face. But you have these guys who actually have some pride in where they're at. Yeah. This isn't just a signing for them. This isn't just a paycheck for them. They have some sort of attachment towards that. And not saying that you need that on every team, but for this rebuild, I think that is going to be very much so important because now you're going to have these guys along with Bryce Young who are going to have some sort of a deeper feeling for Panthers fans and for this franchise to go out there and win. We know that when in professional sports, these things can easily just become about a paycheck. If I just get the tackles I'm supposed to get, doesn't care if we win or lose. I got the tackles I was supposed to get. I have some good tape. I can get paid on my next contract and go anywhere. I don't care. You don't want that situation where you have 53 guys who don't care.
Yeah.
Now you're building up guys who care, who really feel like they want to be here, and that's something I love to see. It looks like there's a lot of guys who want to be here.
That's going to wrap it up for the first episode of Panthers Playbook. Again, download this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe as well. Also on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the likes.
Top
and
rope,
again,
elbow drop, boom.
Exactly. Whatever it is you got to do. And leave comments as well. We'll see you next week on the next episode of Panthers Playbook.